Yeah, Radharani Mataji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to all dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, um, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons. From the text 25, text 25 and 26. In this bewildered state, the living entities accepting the body and mind to be the self consider some people to be in his kingsmen and others to be the outsiders. Because of this misconception, he suffers. Indeed, the accumulating of such con- concatenated material ideas is the cause of suffering and so called happiness in the material world. The conditioned soul, thus situated, must take birth in the different species and work in the various types of consciousness, thus creating new bodies. This continued the material life is called the samsara. Birth, death, lamentation, foolishness, and anxiety are due to such material consideration. Thus, we sometimes come to a proper understanding and sometimes fall again to a wrong conception of life. Text 27. In this regard, an example is given for from an old history. This involves a discourse between the Yamaraj and the friends of a dead person. Please hear it attentively. Text 28. In the state known as Usinara, there was a celebrating king named Suyajana, where the king was killed in the battle by his enemies. His kinsmen sat down around the dead body and began to lament the death of their friend. Text 29 and 29 to 31. His golden bejeweled arms smashed, his ornaments and garlands fallen from their place, and his hair scattered, and his eyes lusterless. The slain king lay on the battlefield, his entire body smeared with blood, his heart pressed by the arrows of the enemies. When he died, he had wanted to show his powers, and thus he had bitten his lips, and his teeth remained in that position. His beautiful lotus like face was now black and covered with dust from the battlefield. His arms with his sword and other weapons were cut and broken. When the, when the queens of the king of Husnara saw their husband lying in the position, they began crying, "O Lord, now that you have been killed, we also have been killed." Repeating these words again and again, they fell down, pounding their breast at the feet of the dead king. Text 32. As the queens loud cried, their tears glittered down their breast, becoming reddened by the kumkum powder, and fell upon the lotus feet of their husband. Their hair became disarrayed, their ornaments fell, and in a way that evoked sympathy from the hearts of others, the queen began lamenting their husband's death. Text 33. O Lord, you have now been removed by the cruel providence to the state beyond our sight. You have previously sustained the living livelihood of the inhabitants of Usinara, and thus they were happy. But your condition now is the cause of their unhappiness. Text 34. O King, O hero, you were a very grateful husband and the most sincere friend of all of us. how shall we exist without you, O hero? Wherever you are going, please direct us there so that we may follow in your footsteps and engage again in your service. Let us go along with you. Text 35. The time was appropriate for the body to be burned, but the queens, not allowing it to be taken away, continued lamenting for the dead body, which they kept on their laps. In the meantime, the sun completed its movements for setting in the west. Text 36. While the queens were lamenting for the dead body of the king, their loud cries were heard even from the abode of Emeraj, assuming the body of a boy. Emeraj personally approached the relatives of the dead body and advised them as follows. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Radharani Mataji. Hare Krishna. So let me offer brief prayers and we can discuss. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Desutarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so oh, so we are in the seventh canto, second chapter. It's a nice section. I'll briefly talk about the context and then we can discuss details. Overall, in this section, we'll hear about the attachment to attachment that is coming due to bodily conception of life. That is one theme we'll hear about, and how that leads to suffering. And another thing we'll also hear about is how we are not, our endeavor is not supreme. That means we can do whatever we want, but ultimately, according to the order of Krishna, we'll get whatever we are meant to get. So we need to accept that position in our life, whatever is offered by Krishna. That is the second lesson we can learn from this section. One is about attachment due to bodily consumption of life that leads to suffering. And second is about accepting position that is offered by Supreme Lord in our life. So those two themes will be there. I just wanted to highlight them. So when we discuss, you can pay attention to those two themes. Now, overall context wise, I will describe the storyline and then we can go into the verses. Storyline we heard in the beginning of the first chapter of the seventh canto. Parishit Maharaj asked a question: does God seem partial like that? And then Sukadeva Goswami gave philosophical, wonderful answer. How God is uh, equal to everyone. However, he shows his favorable partiality towards devotees still. That's how he describes it. And then he describes the principle of reciprocation. How Krishna reciprocates according to our mood, the person's mood, like that. Etam prapachante, that verse we hear from Bhagavatam, like that. That means because devotee is favorably inclined towards Krishna and is reciprocating accordingly, like that. And then he also describes how even for demons, the way Lord reciprocates is for their own welfare, to correct them through punishment, in the sense of, uh, for example, he kills the demons to protect the devotees. But in that process, he's actually giving the mercy to the demons so that they can become corrected, they can get a higher position. In most cases, they get liberation, like that. So that also he describes. So not only Krishna is reciprocal, but he's also merciful to those who are not even inclined towards him, like the demons, like that. And then he elaborates with a example, practical example of how Krishna delivered Shishupal, like that, by describing the story of uh, what happened when Yudhishthira Maharaj was doing a Rajasuya sacrifice like that. In that context, the discussion started when Krishna killed Shishpala demon who blasphemed Krishna so many times that time in Rajasuya sacrifice. That time, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked the question to Nadamuni, how come Shishpala got delivered like that? So now, this whole seventh canto is the conversation between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Nardamuni. So in that conversation, Nardamuni starts to describe how actually Shishpal even though he's the enemy, he was treating Krishna as the enemy. He was very much absorbed in Krishna like that. So absorption in Krishna in any means will deliver somebody like that. He was describing. Then he starts to describe how Shishpavala actually was a devotee previously. How Jaya and Vijay were cursed previously to come to this world for 3 births. They took they took the lives of three demons into 3 different yugas, like that he describes. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj asked questions: how come this happened? This cursing happened like that. Then he elaborates a little bit more detail about how Jaya Vijaya curse happened like that. And then he describes the 3 lives in brief for the demons. And then we hear about how, and then he describes how Hiranyakashipu was envious towards his own son, Prahlad Maharaj, who was a devotee. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj asked question, how come a father is envious towards his own son, Prahlad Maharaj? Can you tell me more? Then that is when the second chapter starts, where uh, Narada Muni is describing further about how he wants to describe how Prahlad Maharaj was born, and then how Maharaj was devotee, and why did Hiranyakashipu become envious to him. But to do that, before Prahlad Maharaj was born, is giving the context of how Hiranyakashipu became envious towards Supreme Lord, and because of that, that enmity led to later becoming envious towards son like that. To give that context, he starts to describe how Hiranyakashipu became so angry when his brother Hiranyaksha was killed by Supreme Lord in the form of Varahadev. So uh, then he wants to destroy Brahminical culture by giving trouble to Brahmanas, cows, and anywhere some Varnashram activities are happening, he gives orders to destroy them like that. That is the first portion of the second chapter. And then it transitions to Hiranyakashipu trying to console his mother for the loss of Hiranyaksha. And then also Hiranyaksha's wife, that is his sister-in-law, and also his nephews, that means sons of Hiranyaksha. He tries to console them. We heard from Krishnamani Prabhu how even though Hiranyakashipu was a demon, he gives knowledge of the spirit soul, how spirit soul is eternal, how the life in this body, in this material world is temporary, how we come together temporarily, and then we need to separate out of our, even against our own desire, against our own wish, like that. He gives the example of people come to a restaurant, eat something or drink something, and then separate out because they cannot stay for a restaurant for the whole day even. Forget about months or years or lifetime like that. So like that, he gives an example to understand how it's a temporary life we're all staying. And in this temporary life, sometimes some of us stay together for some time and then separate out like that. So like that, and then he starts to describe the how bodily conception of life leads to different dualities like happiness and distress, like that. So today, the starting verse will conclude Hiranyakashipu's giving the knowledge of the soul and how bodily conception of life leads to suffering. That's where we'll start today. So one thing to note, how come Hiranyakashipu is a demon, but he has such wonderful knowledge? He's not able to apply. That's the important principle to learn. So the demoniac people, they might have all the knowledge, but in the right place, they cannot apply the knowledge that they have because they're lacking the mercy of the devotees, they're lacking mercy of Supreme Lord, and they are driven by the attachment to sense gratification. Because I'm so attached to sense gratification, I want to be happy by like this. Then they cannot act on the soul platform. That is one thing we can learn from this understanding of the situation of Hiranyakashipu. Now going to the section where today's verse from 25th verse, where Hiranyakasipu is giving the last instruction about understanding of the knowledge of the soul and the misery of caused by body, like that. He's saying when somebody accepts their body or their mind as the self, then that leads to suffering, is describing. So because of that misconception that I am this body, I am this mind, that is what leads to suffering, Hiranyakasipu describes. And suffering not only in this life, but that is what is the cause of different kinds of activities, knowing, thinking that I'm body and mind. That is what will cause my repeated birth and death. That samsara cycle will continue, is describing Hiranyakasipu in the 25th, 26th verse. So this is important for us. So when we when we think, when we have the conception that we are this body or mind, not the understanding and the conception and realization that we are a spirit soul and servant of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna, then we'll do everything to give enjoyment to this body or enjoyment to the mind. That's the way we act on it. The moment we act for the enjoyment of the body, the moment we act for the enjoyment of mind, what we are doing is we are creating new karma, new activity, new reactions we are generating for ourselves. The moment we have new reactions that we are generating for with our karma, that means we'll have to take another birth again, whether it is a human body or animal body or bird body, whatever species happens to be. But we need to take a birth again. And then the moment we take a birth, it comes as a package, some enjoyment, some suffering, like that. So, and not only that, we'll create more karma, leading to more balance of reactions that we need to suffer or enjoy again. That's so we're perpetuating in the cycle of samsara, birth and death life cycle. So instead, as practicing devotees, we're trying to learn this knowledge that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, I'm spiritual in nature, I'm meant to have eternal bliss all the time, not just happy for a few minutes or few hours or few days. I'm meant to be happy all the time in service of Krishna. And then I'm part and parcel of Krishna. So as part and parcel of Krishna, if you serve Krishna, that is the real happiness. Prabhupada describes a nice analogy that is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam, that how a hand cannot enjoy independently of the body. Hand used to give the enjoyment to the body. How hand needs to serve the body. Then only hand can enjoy. For example, hand, let us say hand is becoming, I'm hungry for last 5 days. So hand has become very weak. So hand cannot think that I am weak. So let me get a lot of food, nice food, and then I'll be happy. And by holding in the hand for next few days, I'll be happy. What will happen? The food will get spoiled. Hand will not get any nourishment. Instead, the nice food that hand got from somewhere, it can give it to the mouth, and then that goes to the stomach, and it is digested, and that nourishment will come to the hand also. Otherwise, just by holding the food in the hand, nourishment doesn't come. Similarly, we are like this hand that is part of the body. That means we are like the hand that is part of the Supreme Lord's body. So that is similarly, that means instead of like hand trying to enjoy by itself, if we're trying to enjoy by ourselves, we don't get the enjoyment and nourishment we need. But it's same similarly how hand is giving the food to the mouth. Similarly, we as a devotee, when we serve Krishna, then not only Krishna becomes happy because he's getting the food, but that nourishment will come to us also. So that way, when we try to understand this knowledge of being spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, servant of Krishna, then we get the key. Oh, my happiness and nourishment in life is in serving Krishna. Through that, not only Krishna is enjoying, but I will also enjoy like that. That understanding we'll get. So this is a spiritual understanding at the intelligence level. So now, how do you convert that spiritual understanding from the intelligence level to practical application level? This works at three levels. One is at the intelligence level by understanding knowledge from scriptures like this when we are hearing scriptures and sadhus. And second is by the association of devotees who are living on that platform as I'm a soul platform. I'm a servant of Krishna platform. Then when we see that example, then we feel inspired and we get the understanding. Oh, That is how I need to live like a soul. That's how I need to live like a devotee of his Krishna, like that. So one is by knowledge of Shastra and from Guru and Sadhu. Second is by association of devotees who are around us, who are practicing life as a spirit soul, practicing life as a part and parcel of Krishna, practicing life as a servant of Krishna. Third aspect is by engaging in devotion service, we're getting purified day by day, minute by minute. Through that purification, we actually get the realization that I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm part and parcel of Krishna, I'm not this body. The chanting that we're doing every day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is meant to give us the knowledge, transform the knowledge to realization that I'm a servant of Krishna, like that. So with these three things, we develop the right desires and right attitude and right uh, presence of mind to act in every situation as a servant of Krishna, as a spirit soul, as servant of Krishna, like that. So currently, we might act as a body and then we'll think, oh, why did I act like that? I know I'm a spirit soul, but still I'm acting like that. As if like everything is dependent on my body to enjoy, like that. Like that we'll know now. But as we practice bhakti nicely, we get to the realization that I'm a spirit soul, I'm part and parcel and servant of Krishna. So that is one important lesson here for us in this section. Now, after Hiranyakashipu described this philosophical knowledge as a spirit soul to his mother and other relatives, then he wants to give an example to elaborate on it. So he refers to a previous history is described, where Yamaraja was giving knowledge to relatives of a dead body, he describes. So in this verse, Prabhupada catches the words about uh, itihasam, history. And then Prabhupada explains how Puranas like Srimad Bhagavatam are actually history. That means they're relating facts of the bygone ages, whatever has happened really, they're relating to us in history form, not like it's imagination story, it's a mythical story, not like that. So that is the principle that Prabhupada is sharing with us. In fact, that is the reason Jiva Goswami proves the point that how Puranas are very helpful, very wonderful for us to depend on for spiritual knowledge, like that in Tattva Sandarbha. We don't have so much time to describe all that flow of his thought process, how he presents, Jiva Goswami presents in Tattva Sandarbha. But essentially, he describes how among all the Vedas, Puranas are the best. Among the Puranas, mode of goodness Puranas are best. Among the mode of goodness Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam is the best. So then we take Srimad Bhagavatam knowledge as the perfect knowledge and accept that in our heart and apply in our life, like that. So that is why, that's how Jiva Goswami, in short summary, he concludes Srimad Bhagavatam knowledge is the best for us. Now he starts to describe the story. What story? Now remember, Sutta Goswami in the first canto was talking to sages of Navisaranya, and they are talking about what Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj are talking, and they are talking about now in this canto, Narada Muni and Yudhishthira Maharaj are talking, and within that Narada Muni Yudhishthira Maharaj pastime, we came to hear how Hiranyakashipu is talking to his family members, and then Hiranyakashipu is now telling how Yamadharmaraj is talking to relatives of a dead body, like that. Now, what we are hearing is Yamadharmaraju instructions. So, Yamadharmaraju is the story Hiranyakashipu describes is that there's a kingdom by name Usinara. In that kingdom, there's a king by name Suyagna, and he fought in a battle very hard, but then he passed away, it seems. And then all his wives and relatives were all sitting next to the dead body, and they were all lamenting for his loss. And the queen started crying, oh, um, oh Lord, now that you've been killed, we also have been killed, like that. They're crying like that. So Prabhupada writes in this purport, the second theme we want to discuss, that even though king was determined to kill the enemies, was fighting hard, he was even biting his lips with teeth, with anger, like that, but still he had to die in the battlefield. So we all may be doing endeavor to get this, get that, achieve this, achieve that. But still, that is not sufficient. It needs to be coupled with Krishna's grace. It needs to be supported by past karmic reactions we might have, balance anything good reactions we have, and time factor like that. There are many factors that are deciding our result, not just our endeavor. That should not make us complacent. We should do our endeavor properly, but depend on Krishna's mercy. That is how we need to conduct our life. That is another theme we can learn today. So like that, queens were loudly crying, and their ornaments were fell down, and they're really lamenting for their husband's death. At that time, uh, what happened is, there appeared Yamadharma Raja. Yamadharma Raja appeared. Why did Yamadharma Raja appear? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary talks about two things. One is that, oh, before that, I will mention one more important thing. The 35th verse is talking about. 35th verse is talking about how the queens did not want the body to be burned, the body to be sent to funeral. They were stopping. No, no, king should be here only. We love him so much. We want his body to be here only like that. So that was the excessive attachment they went through. So they did not recognize that is important for the body to be cremated, because what happens is when the soul leaves the body, soul is attached to the body. Soul will hover over the body only, near the body only, and soul will see what are everybody doing near the body like that. So how are everybody treating the body like that? So it's important that we cremate the body, so that way soul will go to the next destination that is decided by laws of nature. In case of non-devotees, in case of somebody who achieves perfection, they'll achieve the spiritual world and spiritual body like that. So they do not think about the benefit of the soul who is in the body also. Otherwise, the soul can be in ghost body if the body is not destroyed like that, because of attachment to the body like that. So that is what is being described in this verse. And if somebody is in bodily conception like that, they're compared to animals like gokara, cow and asses like that. And in this purport, Prabhupada wonderfully explains why cow is used like that. Apparently, when somebody needs to take milk from the cow, the cowherd man needs to take milk from the cow, but then the calf is dead recently. They keep the calf's dead body near the cow, it seems. So that way, cow still licks the dead body and gives milk, it seems. Because out of affection for the baby, cows give milk like that. So like that, that's why it's considered, foolish people are considered like animals, like cows and asses like that. So now, going to the next verse, that time Yamaraja came. So why did Yamaraja came personally? And how did he come? He came like a small boy. Why did he come personally? Vishnu Chakra Thakur says, oh, some people say because the person, King Suyagna was a pious person. When pious person leave, Yamadharmaraj personally comes instead of Yamadutas, number one. Number two, some people say that some of the women around the dead body were devotees, and Yamadutas don't go near devotees. So that's why Yamaraja has to personally come like that. That's the two explanations Vishwanath Chakravarti gives in this commentary. And then, why did he come as a young boy? He could have come as an adult also. Then Prabhupada describes that in the purport also. And why he came as a young boy? Two reasons. One is, young boy is not restricted by many people to go here, there, like that. They'll think, oh, this is an innocent boy. Okay, let him go like that. That is one reason. Second reason is, when somebody hears the philosophy from a young child, they're very attracted. Wow, he's talking about soul. Oh, he understood that soul, uh, living at the platform of the soul leads to happiness. Living at the platform of the body leads to suffering. Like that, they will hear the child speaking nicely, because it feels sweet to hear the child speaking philosophy. Like that, that's the description Prabhupada gives in the purport. Then, okay, that's the last verse for today. So I wanted to explain couple of things only, more. So how do we, as devotees, deal with death of our near and dear ones? Especially when a devotee leaves the body. For example, Kamudika Mataji was a wonderful devotee, left the body yesterday. So when such devotees leave the body, so we need to, grief is natural, because we missing their association. Especially for those who had a close association, they will have a lot of grief. So understanding that grief is natural is important, and let them go through the grieving process. We need to support them with the grieving process like that. So not telling them don't lament, it's okay, not like that. Number one. Number two, we need to understand uh, that they are a spirit soul and they served Krishna in so many ways while they were living. Like Kaumudi Mataji served Krishna in so many ways, with by taking care of the husband, by taking care of deities at home, by chanting every day, by hearing every day. In fact, she was so eager to hear that she would hear at least two classes every day from Bhakti Sangha Japa conference every day. And she was one of the regular attendees in the Japa conference call. So, and he was so eager when the class is going on, when she's not able to come, she asked me, is there a link where I can hear? Like that. So that's the eagerness of a devotee to hear Krishna Katha. And she used to do deity worship regularly every day morning, without fail, like that. And then she, that means they're showing by their example how to live as a devotee by practicing strict sadhana, sincere and eager sadhana, like that. And then by doing the duties that they have in their life properly. In fact, our spiritual master, His Holiness Satswar Goswami Maharaj, um, mentioned to her husband, Jai Gaur Sundar Prabhuji, that you both, you and your wife, led an ideal Gruhastha life, like that. Such a wonderful sharing by their guru. So they not only practice devotee life, but they practice in an ideal grihastha setting also. They set an example for others, like that. And then not only that, his guru said, now that you completed ideal grihastha life, I want you to take up ideal vanaprastha life, like that. So they set example for us also, both Jayagor Sundar Prabhuji and Kamandik Mataji, like that. So they lived ideal vanaprastha life by doing their service. Mataji was supporting their family and encouraging congregation members like me and many others by appreciating, by encouraging. Like whenever I give class, she says, "Oh, it's a wonderful class you gave," like that, and then she appreciates. And she used to tell me some instructions whenever possible. For example, one time, one of the most important thing that touched my heart was her appreciation for worship of Tulsi Devi. So that helped me to regularly pray to Tulsi Devi every day morning, like that. So like that, these devotees are beacons of light, giving wisdom to all of us, encouraging all of us, like that. And then she used to she told me one time, oh, Srimad Bhagavatam verses we can also sing. It's very nice to sing Srimad Bhagavatam verses, like that. She used to love singing Srimad Bhagavatam verses. So that's another way. So they're showing by the example of how to live as a devotee, like that, by encouraging others, by appreciating others, by engaging in our sadhana nicely, and by doing service whenever we can. She used to come to Bhakti Visha of Vamsivardhan Prabhuji and hear classes from when Vamsivardhan Prabhu is speaking, when one of us is speaking. She didn't mind because Krishna Katha. She did not. She's such a humble personality, like that. Even though she's very elevated herself. And then even while leaving the body, most of us know how peacefully she left the body, with Krishna consciousness, like that. Somebody regretted her with Haribol day before yesterday, and she was responding Haribol, like that. So like that, when somebody was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, she was connecting with what they were sharing. It seems from Srimad Bhagavatam, like that, day before yesterday. His grandson Nimai was sharing with me. So like that, devotees are not in fear of death. Devotees are conscious of Krishna while they're leaving their body also. So when we see such example like that, we need to take their example and improve in our own life, our own sadhana and seva by taking their example and by developing a sense of urgency in our own life that that day might come for me also anytime. So I need to develop that sense of urgency and dedicate my life in Krishna consciousness, growing in my Krishna consciousness, and helping others to go closer to Krishna, like that. That way, with the sense of urgency, we prepare for our own passing away from this world also nicely. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj used to say, die before dying. So what he meant is, we get rid of our false ego before we die. That means we work on our bad qualities by focusing on devotion service to Krishna, like that. So the few sharings I wanted to share. So we'll continue again Monday morning. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhesha Kupasindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo